Welcome, everyone. I'm Diana Diggs, and I'm a Huron Pines AmeriCorps member serving at Michigan Nature Association, or MNA as we usually call it. I am hosting the webinar today with one of MNA's regional stewardship organizers, Rob Johnston, and we want to thank you so much for attending. We're hoping you're able to learn more about the conservation efforts happening for the Karner Blue butterfly in the Newaygo area. So as I mentioned, I'm a Huron Pines AmeriCorps member, and I just want to tell you a little bit more about that program. First, a little background about AmeriCorps. It's a network of local, state, and national service programs that engages more than 70,000 Americans each year to help communities address issues involving health, education, environment, disaster services, and economic opportunity. If you've heard of the Peace Corps, you can think about it in those terms, but your service is done in America, not internationally. Huron Pines is a conservation nonprofit that has been conserving forests, lakes, and streams in Northeast Michigan since 1973. They began the Huron Pines AmeriCorps program in 2007 to help develop leaders in conservation. At first, they only hosted AmeriCorps members at their site, and then they started expanding their program across Michigan. And now they typically have about 30 members providing service to conservation organizations statewide. Some of the host sites are DNR offices, conservation districts, land conservancies, and other environmental organizations. And this is MNA's first year as a host site. Huron Pines AmeriCorps members serve in 4 key areas: volunteer engagement, habitat restoration, both land and water, and environmental stewardship and new conservation services. So this includes improving public land, giving community presentations, restoring trails and rivers, and working with local students. And you can see on the slide in 2018, the members completed over 48,000 hours of service across Michigan and reached over 12,000 students. As a Huron Pines AmeriCorps member, you serve 1,700 hours over the course of a 10-month term. During that time, you may plan and participate in events ranging from natural resources, outreach and education, to more labor-intensive service like invasive species removal. Members also coordinate events with local groups and find and manage volunteers for events. As members, we are also given the opportunity to network in areas of interest, attend relevant conferences and seminars, and serve under Michigan's natural resource leaders. It's a really great program, so if you know anyone that might be interested, feel free to give them my email and I'd be happy to talk with them about it. So now we're going to talk a little bit about Michigan Nature Association, or MNA for short, for those of you who are not familiar with the organization. MNA is a nonprofit, membership-based organization with headquarters in Okemos, Michigan. In 1951, Bertha Dabendeck and a few of her friends started a group to study birds. The group started out with a mission to protect ecological diversity and to educate people about Michigan's diverse wildlife. In 1952, the group signed articles of incorporation, officially establishing themselves as a nonprofit. Since then, the mission of MNA has evolved, and today it is to acquire, protect, and maintain natural areas that contain examples of Michigan's endangered and threatened flora, fauna, and other components of the natural environment, including habitat for wildlife and plants of the state of Michigan, and also to carry out a program of natural history study and conservation education. To achieve our mission, we monitor, restore, and maintain over 180 sanctuaries, making us the largest statewide network managed by a nonprofit conservation organization in Michigan. Each nature sanctuary is represented by a black dot on the map, so you can see the widespread distribution across the state. 3 of these sanctuaries are in Newaygo County, and Rob will discuss these in more detail later. And last, before I hand it over, just a quick note that if you want to learn more about M&A, you can check out our website, michigannature.org, which also has a calendar of upcoming events, including volunteer work days, which right now are on hold for safety purposes due to COVID-19. But this is where you will be able to find out about important dates when we do resume events. Also, you can follow us on various forms of social media, such as Facebook and Instagram. And now I'm going to hand it over to Rob.
Thanks for getting us started, Diana, and for taking the lead on helping M&A navigate this new exciting world of webinars. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Rob Johnston. I'm the Regional Stewardship Organizer for the Western Lower Peninsula at M&A. Here's a little outline of the topics I'll be covering in the rest of the webinar. We'll start with the M&A regions and the role of RSOs. Then we'll take a look at a federally listed endangered species found in my region, the Karner Blue butterfly. We'll review Karner Blue habitats and put those in context in Newaygo County. We'll look at M&A's stewardship efforts related to the Karner Blue, along with ways for you to get involved. And we'll end with some time for Q&A. So let's dive in. Each of M&A's sanctuaries falls within one of 6 regions, color-coded on this handy little map here. RSO's roles and responsibilities fall under 2 main categories, stewardship and outreach. Stewardship involves, among other things, ecological restoration activities, maintenance of sanctuary infrastructure, and monitoring the sanctuaries. Outreach involves communicating with sanctuary stewards. These are dedicated super volunteers who make a special commitment to a particular sanctuary, holding volunteer workdays and other events, promoting our sanctuaries to schools and neighboring communities, and generally representing M&A in the region. My region is the Western Lower Peninsula, abbreviated as WLP or the Western Lower, which is the orange area on the map. The Western Lower covers 22 counties and includes 18 nature sanctuaries. Within the Western Lower, our 3 sanctuaries in Newaygo County receive special attention for a special reason, the federally listed endangered Karner Blue butterfly. So here it is, the Karner Blue butterfly, often abbreviated as KBB. It's a small butterfly with a 1-inch wingspan. Males and females look different on the top side, same underneath. The top side of the male is silvery or dark blue with narrow black margins. The female is grayish brown, especially on the outer portions of the wings, to blue on the top side, with irregular bands of orange crescents inside the narrow black border. The underside of both sexes is gray with a continuous band of orange crescents along the edges of both wings and with scattered black spots circled with white. The Karner Blue is federally listed endangered. An endangered species is an animal or plant that's considered at risk of extinction. A species can be listed as endangered at the state, federal, and international level. On the federal level, the Endangered Species List is managed under the Endangered Species Act. The Endangered Species Act, ESA, was enacted by Congress in 1973. Under the ESA, the federal government has the responsibility to protect endangered species. Its survival is dependent on conservation and active effort to preserve its populations. Here we have a simple illustration of the 4 stages in the Karner Blue life cycle: egg, caterpillar, chrysalis, and adult. The Karner Blue butterfly usually has 2 generations and thus 2 hatches each year. In April, the first group of caterpillars hatch from eggs that were laid the previous year. The caterpillars feed only on wild lupine plant leaves. By about mid-May, the caterpillars pupate and adult butterflies emerge from the chrysalis by the end of May into early June. This period from mid-May to mid-June is referred to as the first flight. These adults mate, laying their eggs in June on or near wild lupin plants. The eggs hatch in about 1 week, and the caterpillars feed for about 3 weeks. They then pupate, and the summer's second generation of adult butterflies appears in mid-July. This second flight lasts until mid-August. These adults mate and lay eggs that will not hatch until the following spring, starting the cycle all over again. It's worth noting that adult Karner Blue butterflies only live for about a week. Next, let's take a closer look at the food sources used by the Karner Blue. Karner Blue butterflies forage for nectar from a variety of flower sources as adults. In the picture on this slide, we see an adult on the aptly named butterfly weed. As caterpillars, however, they are much more specialized. Karner Blue caterpillars will only eat wild lupin leaves. So now let's take a closer look at this extremely important plant. Wild lupin is a member of the pea family. It's a perennial, meaning the same plant comes back year after year if conditions are favorable. Preferred conditions for wild lupin are dry, relatively infertile soils. They can grow in full sun, but also doesn't mind a bit of shade. The plant spreads by seed, which explode from the ripe seed pods, aiding in their distribution. Karner Blue butterflies will lay their eggs on or near wild lupin because, and this is super important and worth repeating, wild lupin is the only food source for Karner Blue caterpillars. This is a great map to illustrate the relationship between wild lupin and the Karner Blue butterfly by looking at their ranges and how they overlap. You can see Michigan in the middle of the map and a thin band of dark blue indicating the current range of Karner Blue butterflies in our state. This dark blue area also corresponds with the presence of other special natural features, oak pine barrens and dry sand prairies. These globally rare habitat types provide particularly favorable conditions for wild lupin and, by extension, the Karner Blue. Let's do a quick review of some terms that come up quite frequently when we're talking about these special habitat types. Savanna, open grassland with few trees, may or may not have a shrub layer. These are often described as park-like and having 10 to 60% canopy. So what's canopy? Canopy, the branches and leaves of trees that form the ceiling of a forest. As the percentage of canopy goes up, light reaching the ground goes down. Forbs, these are herbaceous or not woody, broadleaf plants that are not grass-like. And droughty, dry, doesn't hold moisture. We'll start by looking at oak pine barrens. Oak pine barrens are a fire-dependent savanna community. These likely originated when prairie fires spread into surrounding closed oak and pine forest with enough intensity to create open barrens. Repeated low-intensity fires working in concert with drought, frost, and wind throw maintained barrens ecosystems. Fires prevented canopy closure and the dominance of woody vegetation. Historically, Native Americans played an integral role in fire regimes of barrens ecosystems, intentionally and or accidentally setting fire to savanna, barrens, and prairie ecosystems. Logging, slash burning, farming, and fire suppression have resulted in much of Michigan's oak pine barrens being lost or degraded. Dry sand prairies are native grassland communities characterized by well-drained, nutrient-poor soils. Vegetation is short and patchy compared to other prairie communities, maintained by fire and droughty soils, which prevent fires from establishing. Fire also promotes seed germination and seedling establishment. Due to the variability of historic fires, dry sand prairies occurred as part of a shifting mosaic along with oak pine barrens in western lower Michigan. These next two slides will show you some of the incredible diversity of wildflowers that can be found in oak pine barrens and dry sand prairie habitats. These nectar sources support a multitude of insects, including our Karner Blue butterfly. Now, we'll take a closer look at what M&A has been up to in Newaygo. If we zoom out, we see that M&A's 3 Newaygo sanctuaries, highlighted in yellow, are embedded within a conservation lands matrix. This greatly enhances their strategic conservation value. We have sanctuaries just east and south of the Coolbaugh Natural Area, highlighted in red, which consists of 440 acres owned by Brooks Township, but jointly managed by the Nature Conservancy and M&A. There have been additional partnerships to help manage adjacent private land as well. The Manistee National Forest Newaygo Bigelow Prairie Management Unit borders one of our sanctuaries on the north side and connects to the Coolbaugh Natural Area. The adjacent unit of the Manistee National Forest Newaygo Bigelow Prairie Management Unit is over 1,000 acres in size and is scheduled for prairie and savanna management over the coming decade. The North Country Trail passes through the Manistee National Forest Newaygo Bigelow Prairie Management Unit. M&A's 3 nature sanctuaries and the surrounding conservation lands are recognized for their high importance to the conservation of the federally listed endangered Karner blue butterfly, as well as numerous other species of conservation concern, which will benefit from active management efforts. Located a few miles northeast of the town of Newaygo, Newaygo Prairie Nature Sanctuary consists of a 15-acre parcel of degraded prairie, a 30-acre prairie bowl remnant, and approximately 65 acres of mixed oak and pine woods. The wooded areas, which currently surround the prairie parcels, were identified as oak pine barrens in the General Land Office surveys conducted in the early to mid-1800s. Due to fire suppression, these former barrens have grown denser with a closed canopy. With an active management regime, the existing mixed hardwood closed canopy forest can be restored to oak pine barrens. A long-term goal is to foster or reintroduce plants important to the Karner blue butterfly, which has been found sporadically on the sanctuary in the past. Karner Blue Nature Sanctuary is a 95-acre parcel 2 miles southwest of Newaygo Prairie Nature Sanctuary. The yellow outlined areas of the map indicate the location of designated occupied habitat for the Karner blue butterfly by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Michigan Department of Natural Resources. That is, populations of Karner blue butterfly have been observed at these locations. In 2016, M&A was awarded a grant from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, which provided funding for a project which removed a substantial portion of the forest canopy and shrub sapling understory in the forested acreage separating the north and south prairie sections of the sanctuary, which are the long-term goal is to continue opening up the forested portion and thereby increase the available habitat for KBB in the sanctuary. This sanctuary has a special place in my heart. During my first visit to Karner Blue Nature Sanctuary as a new hire last year, in 2019, the butterfly pictured on this slide landed on me and posed for a bunch of pictures for me and my coworkers. Brooks Oak Pine Barrens is a 40-acre site located 2 miles east of Newaygo Prairie Nature Sanctuary. It was purchased in 2019 with funding from a Karner Blue Butterfly Mitigation Grant awarded to M&A by the Conservation Fund and with the approval of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. This grant also included funds for restoration. This site is a mix of dry sand prairie and closed canopy forest with a long-term management objective of establishing an oak pine barrens character for the entire site and establishing wild lupin and nectar resources for Karner blue. The hope is that butterflies from occupied habitat 1/8 of a mile to the northeast will make their way to the sanctuary if we create the conditions that they need. This sanctuary is open to the public, but not promoted for visitation since the other Newaygo sanctuaries are more easily accessible. Our objective for Newaygo is to restore, maintain, and expand suitable habitat for the Karner blue, with the overall goal being to help guarantee a stable future for this endangered species. We would accomplish this through cooperation with individuals and other organizations that have similar goals and priorities. Now we can look at the main challenges we're dealing with. First, we have invasive species, which are crowding out desirable native plants. There are a variety of invasive shrubs, trees, and forbs that we are working to control. Trees and shrubs pose another challenge in that they increase the amount of shade, thereby reducing the amount of sunlight reaching ground level. As trees and shrubs grow and spread unchecked, we would eventually see a transition from open, savanna-type habitats to closed canopy forests. Fragmentation is another challenge. Fragmentation occurs when you have disconnected, isolated pockets of desirable habitat. Our goal is to create larger, contiguous areas of Karner Blue butterfly habitat by linking these pockets together where possible. This happens through cooperation and partnership with other organizations, as illustrated in the Newaygo Conservation Map we saw earlier. M&A staff and volunteers have made lots of progress over the years in improving KBB habitat in Newaygo. Specific restoration activities include invasive species removal, such things as weed pulling, cutting and treating shrubs and trees. We also do seed collection, seed dispersal, and prescribed burning and regular monitoring. For me, even though I've only been with M&A for a short time, I've been able to get a sense for the progress being made at our Newaygo sanctuaries by talking to our long-term stewards and volunteers who have poured their time and energy into these places over the years. I'd like to go a little deeper into detail regarding one stewardship activity in particular, prescribed fire. Historically, fire has been an important part of the Michigan landscape, and as described earlier, it's essential in maintaining special habitat types found in Newaygo. In the past, fires were started by lightning strikes or set intentionally by native tribes. In recent years, however, fire suppression has led to a loss of fire-dependent ecosystems. Without fire to suppress the growth of shrubs and trees, these savanna-type habitats eventually become too shaded to support their specialized flora and associated fauna. Fires also help control invasive species, aid in seed germination, and add nutrients back into the soil. M&A's prescribed burn program goes to great lengths to assure that our burns are conducted in a safe, controlled way that accomplishes our management goals and maximizes the benefits to our sanctuaries. There are many ways to get involved with M&A and our exciting work in Newaygo. First, I'd like to talk about education. M&A has long had a focus on engaging and supporting the next generation of conservationists and naturalists, which is why we are so excited about our School to Sanctuary program. This is a great program that connects schools to nearby nature sanctuaries. Past programs have included M&A staff giving classroom presentations, having students visit sanctuaries in Newaygo, and allowing students to get some firsthand experience with stewardship. The goal for School to Sanctuary is to provide meaningful outdoor, place-based education experiences for students. If you're a teacher, we'd love to chat about how M&A can support you, how M&A can support a place-based educational curriculum for your students. Outreach to our neighboring communities is also a priority for M&A. We engage folks through email, our magazine, and social media, as well as webinars like this one. Under normal circumstances, we frequently hold volunteer workdays throughout the different seasons each year. Please check with us to find out when we'll be holding volunteer workdays again, or keep an eye on the M&A events calendar on our website. Volunteer workdays are a great way to become a part of the ongoing stewardship story of these special places. We also host a series of 5K races. These are being held virtually this year. Participating is a great way to support M&A. Proceeds from the Karner Blue Butterfly 5K race support our efforts in Newaygo to protect critical habitat for KBB. We also maintain a list of volunteers who are specifically interested in participating in our prescribed burns. Volunteers are an essential part of the burn crew. No previous burn experience necessary. Whatever level you're able to participate, we can find a role for you on the burn crew. And this slide pretty much sums up M&A's work in Newaygo and is a good note to end on. There are a lot of challenges facing this butterfly, but we're committed to doing what we can to ensure it has a future here in West Michigan. Thanks so much for joining this webinar, and here is some contact information for Diana and myself.
Thank you all for coming, and we hope to see you out in the field soon.